recently visited Thorpe Abbott's airbase in Norfolk, which was the home of the 100th bomb group, known as the Bloody 100th. While I was there, I got to learn a lot about the people who flew from there, and one of the stories I heard really stuck in my mind, and I couldn't get it out of my head. I'll tell you about it. Andy Rooney was a reporter. He was the lead correspondent of the London-based GI newspaper Stars and Stripes. Rooney tended to concentrate on the human aspect of the war rather than the massive amount of statistics being generated. But there were some stories, he conceded later, that were just too sad to report. One in particular lived in his mind. While Rooney and some other reporters were waiting in front of a control tower for a squadron of bombers to return, word spread that a ball turret gunner was trapped in his plastic bubble underneath the plane. The gears that rotated the ball to put the gunner in position to shoot and then to return him to the position that enabled him to climb out and back up into the aircraft had been hit and were jammed. The ball turret gunner was caught in a plastic cage. Just before landing, the fortress's hydraulic system, which was riddled with shell holes, malfunctioned, making it impossible for the pilot to put down the wheels. The emergency hand crank for operating the main landing gear had also been destroyed by enemy fire. The pilot would have to make a belly landing. There were 8 minutes of gut-wrenching talk among the tower, the pilot, and the man trapped in the ball turret. He knew what comes down first when there are no wheels. Rooney said, "We all watched in horror as it happened. We watched as this man's life ended, mashed between the concrete pavement of the runway and the belly of the bomber." Later Rooney returned to London, unable to write the most dramatic and ghastly story he had ever witnessed. Well, it turns out probably not. Andy was one to never let the truth get in the way of a good story. The ball turret, for example, had its own self-contained electro-hydraulic motor which wasn't connected to the aircraft's hydraulics. The landing gear wasn't hydraulic, it was run by electric motors backed up by a hand crank, and no evidence anywhere could ever be found of this incident ever happening. Andy wrote about this in 1995, not in 1944. It seems the older you get, the more clearly you remember things that didn't happen. Now let's get this thing on the ground.